Hello and welcome to Behind Every Successful Leader, where we celebrate the power of virtual support in business growth. I'm Holly Copsey, founder of Virtually Priceless and the Visionary VA Circle, and I'm here to highlight the incredible impact VAs have in making businesses more successful. My guest today is the lovely Jennie Smith. Jennie's been a criminal barrister since 2003, specialising in abuse cases. Following 10 years at the Crown Prosecution Service as rape and sexual offences specialist prosecutor, Jennie established Safeguarding Today Ltd, a safeguarding training and advisory consultancy. Jennie's more recently been working with sporting national governing bodies to improve their safeguarding standards, leading the project to implement consistent training for 72 EFL clubs. She's now contracted by both Premier League and EFL clubs at senior level in the role of independent advisor and critical friend. She also sits as a safeguarding panel member at Sport Resolutions and Independent Sport Dispute Resolution Service. Jennie, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today.
Well, thank you for having me, Holly. Good afternoon.
So, could you please share with us a little bit about the activities and tasks that happen day to day within your business?
We all obviously have our different roles in the business. So my role predominantly as director is, I'd say I'm probably the creative content person. So I do a lot of content creation. I deliver a lot of training, and then a lot of my work is consultancy advisory based. So I do a lot of time on the laptop, coming up with new ideas, and then making training slides and then delivering the training as well. I have a lot of Zoom meetings, kind of growing my network. And from the background point of view, this is where I would say the power comes in. I often quite proudly say that I'm not the boss, even though I own the company. So Kelly, my ops manager, I would say is the boss. I always run everything by her because what she says goes. She's perhaps the most organized person I've ever met in my life, both personally and professionally. When we met as friends, and we both got 3 children, and I remember she was like my friend that I was in awe of when we went out with 6 children on day trips, because she'd have everybody's labelled up lunch boxes, snack boxes, and thought, this is the woman for me. And she's absolutely brilliant. And so from Kelly's perspective, she is in effect running the business from that kind of operational side of it. And implementing marketing strategies, creating standard operating procedures for what feels like every single aspect of the business, which means that ultimately, if Kelly goes on holiday, then Michelle and myself can, in theory, pick up the work that Kelly does. And then Michelle, fantastic again, she's my VA. We're scattered all around the country. I'm in Bolton. Kelly is in Northampton, Michelle is in Essex, and it makes absolutely no difference to the running of our business because everything is obviously an online service. I do travel for work, but again, I'm not in charge of when and where I go, and that's for Michelle to deal with my diary. Michelle's also taking on some marketing work, and also helping support our learner management system. So we have an online training system as well. So Kelly has in effect created, she didn't create it, but created the format, I suppose, of what that looks like. And Michelle's going to be assisting us with that. So if you ask me the question, what do Michelle and Kelly do? In a way, I probably don't know is the really honest answer. Is that I know that I should probably have a bit more control over my business, but I have absolute faith in both of them because they've got the skills that I lack. Yeah. And I think my softer skills and skills that I need to improve on are things like organization and things like that. So I've got 2 women behind me who are they are organized. I'm sure they write bullet points in their sleep, these 2, but it gives me the freedom then to be able to be more creative, because I think my mind works at 100 miles an hour thinking of 5 different topics at the same time, and I'll do a bit of research one day, then I'll just swap to a bit more research on a different topic in the afternoon or something. So it's really helpful for me to know that the structure, the structures are in place because Kelly has put those structures in. B, the people with the right skills are in place for me, and C, I think the fact that they know me really well as well.
Yeah.
I think probably the final thing I'd say that really works well is that we are a team. I hope that they, when they listen to this, are smiling, because I wouldn't ever want them to think that they are anything but equals to me. Because we all have our, I remember being at the CPS, and the main people that you have to, make friends with right at the beginning of your lawyer journey is your admin staff, because you can't run a business without admin staff. There used to be lawyers when I was at the CPS that had be stood next to the photocopy machine and had hand the pile of papers to the admin assistant to get them to photocopy, whereas I'd just do it myself, because I knew that, they had so much to do. And,
Wow.
you've got to, it's a team effort. That's what I'd say. That's the conclusion. Definitely. It's a team effort. I think we do fit. And ironically, Kelly's business is called Jigsaw Virtual Assistant, but I do feel like the three of us fit together like jigsaw pieces, that, they complement my weak areas. And I hope that probably, I don't even know if I do complement their areas, to be honest, their areas for growth, but I certainly feel like we do work well as a team. We're very honest with each other. So if we've got, if not that things go wrong, but if we've got a concern or an issue or something needs improving, all three of us are quite happy to have that conversation.
That's so great to hear. And at what point in your business journey did you realize you needed to bring in support? Had you already got the business up and running, or did you have that help right from the start?
No, I didn't have any help at the start, so I did everything myself, and I probably did that for about 2 years. It probably was at the point I got my contract with the EFL, so that was a really big national contract for me, and it involved a lot of diary organisation, because I had to do a learner needs assessment for the 72 football clubs for their safeguarding officers. So I think it was about that stage that Kelly and I went camping with the 6 children, and at the same time, I basically said, what I think I need is a PA. And she said at exactly the same time. Kelly had some time out of work, but she was originally PA to a executive at British Aerospace. So she's come from a really corporate background. Michelle was at PwC again, really corporate background. And I think both of them, I don't know what I'd do without them. So yeah, looking back at how I managed to build a business, I think if had I not got Kelly on board, it would have been stagnant. But what it's allowed me to do is give me the space to go and network, go and spend time on growing the business, because I know that I've got faith that they're running the business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what have been, I guess, the biggest benefits to you of outsourcing and delegating? I mean, you touched upon a couple of things there, but anything else that you'd add?
Well, first, I didn't want to employ anybody. I think because I was a new business owner, it was something that I wasn't comfortable with. And maybe I don't know whether that's changed now, but I like the model that it works. Kelly and Michelle both are working parents. They are flexible, and if somebody needs a day off for for sports day, they have a day off for sports day, and they are their own employers. They're both independent of me. We have minimum hours, and that they're contracted to, and sometimes they go above, but always with my permission. Nothing is ever done surreptitiously or like behind my back. The respect is there as for me as the business owner. So yeah, I mean, it does work well. It does work well. For me, I think it's a really good model, because it means that yes, you're paying more on an hourly basis, but I know for a fact that they both probably do work sometimes, and they go over and they don't charge me just like I do. I don't know, maybe they don't, but I just I've got faith in them that they get the job done.
And that's it. As long as you feel like you're getting value for money and you're getting the help that you need, then that's the priority, right?
Absolutely, and we all give each other notice, if we want annual leave, and it's just out of respect. Ultimately they don't need to, because I'm not their line manager. They don't need to apply. It's not like, having to apply for annual leave. But I think just having that having that respectful environment. I'm very much a promoter and supporter of women, women in business. And it's been a pleasure to see Kelly grow her business, because she started off, I was her first client as VA. Now she's running my business as business manager. She is contracting a number of other VAs as well. So I've seen her business grow as well. So it's really nice for me as her friend to see that, as well as a colleague.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to promote both of them, because like I think I've said it already, I don't know what I would do without them, to be honest. Please don't leave me.
You're amazing. The number of people who have said that to me that I've talked to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the right fit as well. And I think that, especially myself and Kelly, because we are friends, you know, working together with a friend is a very different thing than having a friendship. So, sometimes we go a bit off piste on our meetings, but actually, I think as we've gone on, and Kelly has put more structure in, I think that's less and less, and we'll just have some allocated friend chat time, Yeah.
Important to get that in there. So, what would you say to any business owners who are listening and might be unsure about using virtual support themselves?
I think for people who are sole traders, or there's a couple of people in a business, sometimes might think, an hourly rate for a contracted person is always going to be higher than somebody who's employed. But I suppose from a business perspective, you're then not paying the tax, the NI, the expenses, the pension. There are lots of different expenses that Kelly and Michelle have to pay themselves, and I think that is reflected in the, hourly rate that they charge. For me, I think it's about getting the right people. I think I was very lucky that, Kelly and I started off as friends first. But it was, like I said, it was clear to me how organized she was. This is the kind of woman who has a whiteboard with, like the Monday to Sunday and all the kids, everybody's activities on it, whereas mine would be empty. Calendars are empty for months, and I just, I think that for me, if you get the right person, it allows you to grow your business. It allows you to be creative if that's what your role is. It allows you to. It certainly allowed me to probably finally get rid of the chip off my shoulder, or that that imposter syndrome, because I've got some very, very high profile clients, and I'm just this normal girl from Bolton, and I was brought up by my parents to be humble, and I think that it's taken me a very long time to get to the stage where I'm owning the client, owning it, and the work that I do, and I am respected in that way. And I think both Kelly and Michelle have had a input into that, because they're seeing the work I do. They came on we did a round table discussion about safeguarding at the Olympics last week, and I had two world renowned, not in the safeguarding world, sports safeguarding, really renowned experts, and I was on that panel with them, and afterwards they both encouraged me. And it's also, it's about being a team, isn't it? I think
Absolutely.
if you are a sole trader, it can be a really lonely place post COVID, because especially virtually, my business is pretty much 99% virtual. And I think, I do sit in my house on my own quite a lot. And I think it just gives you that connection.
Yeah.
And I know that Kelly's offered to me before, when perhaps when I was going through my divorce and not feeling, on top of the world, she'd even offered, we can just put Zoom on, we'll just work in the background, but we'll just be next to each other, on the screen, just for a
Yeah.
bit of company. And
Yeah.
for me, it is something that is irreplaceable. I really like that model of having, they've got their own businesses. They bring other stuff as well, which is what I do as a consultant. I think they bring things they've learned from working for other people, and then implement that into my business. And I think that's a really helpful thing that you don't get if you employ somebody. And I think that you can't buy that, can you? Really, you can't buy that.
Real added value for sure. So, if Kelly, well, I'm sure they will, if Kelly and Michelle are watching this, what would you like to say to them?
Oh, well, without tearing up, I would say that I couldn't have got through the last 2 years without them. I think that my business probably would have gone under at points, and that is because I wasn't, I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I love my job, but I certainly feel like I've this past couple of years has been a rocky road, and they have been there 100% for me, and we've had some really honest conversations. And I think I'd like to say I hope they're both proud of me because I've pulled myself through it and just got the biggest signed the biggest contract of my entire life, including my football contracts last week. Uh, yeah, yeah, and I be proud of myself. I've got to own it now. So I hope the future is really bright. And I hope that both of them will be continuing that journey with me.
Fabulous. Well, that's all so great to hear. And thank you so much for sharing. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, and obviously huge thanks to Kelly and Michelle for being so awesome for you. And where's the best place for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your business?
So we've got a LinkedIn page. It's got my maiden name and my married name on there. So I think it says Jennie Birch, Birch, and then in brackets Smith. And that's how people can find me, I'd say. And Safeguarding Today is obviously my company.
Yeah.
We have a LinkedIn page and we've got a Facebook page as well.
Well, we'll make sure we share all the various links in the show notes. But again, thank you so much for chatting. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.